Hello, Cosmic Zen. I want to focus in on one thing you said, not even your point. Okay, I'm focusing in, I'm narrowing in on this point you said about Republican conservatives being accepting things the way they're told, and liberals in a category that's sort of, just quasi intellectual, but somehow a little bit further step beyond. I want to tell you something I think you'll believe. Seriously, this is just really history. The liberal position goes way back. Back when slave owning was not in the closet, there were always two kinds of slave owners. There's those that think you be nice to your slaves, then they won't steal from you and stab you in the back while you sleep. And there's those that believe you keep them under a reign of terror, and they'll be too afraid to do those things. Now, both of these types survive because either one, if taken in isolation, leads to different kinds of revolts, right? If you let your slaves be like members of the family and let them learn to read, eventually they'll realize they're still slaves. They'll be educated enough to realize that though they have privilege, they are in essence still slaves, because they would be. And if you oppress them, then eventually they don't give a damn. You killed too many of their brothers and cousins and mothers and grandfathers, and they'll just fight you and they'll overwhelm you. So it's been a going back and forth thing now. Liberalism, as we understand it, the reason it's self-defeating as we see it uh, expressed is because it's just the guilty slave owner's descendant, the modern form, coming from this idea that, yeah, we favor the wealthy. Yes, the wealthy is better, but we ought to be nice to the slaves anyway. And they become tongue-tied when it comes time to actually take an important step. They always freeze because they're like, wait a second, am I stabbing myself in the back? It's ingrained into the culture of these philosophies, whether the individuals know it or not, to play good cop, bad cop. In other words, I'm a nice slave owner. What, you're going to get uppity? Well, then you should deal with him. Boom, in comes the bad slave owner. And vice versa. When the bad slave owner's getting tired of whipping the slaves, he's like, you gonna behave now? Okay, don't make me. They rely on each other. So you gotta be careful. Um, but because it's still true that liberalism is better in that sense, interpreted that way, that conservatism by a long shot. Okay, now the conservatives in the audience are probably going to get offended. Yeah, I will grant you before you complain too loudly. There's another. I'm talking about the part of conservatism uh, that the AIST has identified. Okay, and there is a tradition or something that leads to that in a geopolitical sense. Okay, there's also this word conservatism, that this kind of philosophy that has this other history through Edmund Burke and whatnot. And it's interesting because there's interesting tenets to it, some of which are not always in evidence among people that say they're conservative. So conservative means many things, but I'm not talking about sort of an ordered modern post monarchistic uh, political ideology. Um, I'm talking specifically about the kinds of conservatives and liberals that are dogmatic. In other words, there are conservatives and liberals, neither one of which is dogmatic, but they call themselves that. I would call them something different, probably, to discriminate between them and the dogmatists that try to adopt a set of views. Because the interesting thing about dogmatists is, we all believe the same thing. No, they all try to believe the same thing. You ask them what they believe, and they're like all over the map. But they just pretend to all believe the same thing, because that way they can pretend they're all right while they don't even believe the same things. It's funny. Funny stuff.